believe that every effort from Namibia contributes positively to our developing economy. I see a nation that believes in its people, its products, and its services. I see our economy being boosted via increased trade and investment. I see much higher levels of employment, a zero crime rate, because every employable and willing person is employed. I see Namibia renowned as a country of origin of some of the world's most loved and competitive brands and businesses. I see Namibia renowned, ranking as one of the contenders in the continent, top of the region, and an influential contributor ranked amongst the top nations in the world. I see Namibia with all Namibians benefiting from local resources because we have abundant resources. Most importantly, I believe that Namibia is special, attractive, desirable, and competitive. Without a doubt, I do believe that we are all very willing to achieve this vision and that it is attainable. So what is it going to take then for us to reposition our nation, to move from just being a good nation to becoming a great nation? Let's face it, nation building is not child's play. It requires years, decades of dedicated, unrelenting commitment, hard work, and cooperation. And with every fiber of my being, I know that this vision is attainable. I know that we are capable. And I know that the challenges that we're facing today, they're not insurmountable. You and I, as consumers and producers alike, we have the capacity within us to create solutions and to make this vision Namibia's reality. So what is it going to take for us to achieve this? There's an opportunity for more entrepreneurs coming from us who are issue-focused, who are solving real-life problems, but also who are intentionally and deliberately creating strong brands from the onset. Brands that consumers will love and that consumers will buy into. I believe that branding is a tool that we should leverage as we reposition our nation from a good nation to a great nation. Because when used effectively, branding has the power to create wealth for a nation, to create prosperity, and to build the nation. I'm a marketer by profession, and my desire has always been to use my skills to help to improve the quality of life for other people. And marketers have the unique job and responsibility to innovate and to add value to life. As human beings and as individuals, we have two fundamental instincts. One of them is that we have a capacity to love, and the other is that we have the liberty to choose, also known as free will. So marketing begins and it ends with people. And we have to create solutions as marketers that are intended to serve, to satisfy, to enhance, and to appeal to those people and the lives that they live. The irony of economics, though, is we are trying to sell products to a people who have constraints, they have limited resources, and in our case as Africa, these limitations are often very, very scarce. Our country is no exception. For every 10 Namibians who are represented in this room today, 4 have and 6 have not. And the 6 who have not don't have the income to afford a decent shelter, daily meal, clothing, and basic utilities like water, electricity, or even a flushing toilet. These are basic necessities. Having grown up as a stepchild with 3 sets of family, this is Africa, I'm sure you know what I mean. I know what it feels like to have. The parents that I lived with made sure that I enjoyed a privileged life. We lived in a decent house. We lived in a decent suburb. I went to private schools. I received a quality education. We were well cushioned. But there's always been this sharp contrast between the life that I could have come from on the other side and the life that I was privileged to live in the leafy suburbs. And this awareness, it never left me because I realized that things could have been very different for me and I just narrowly missed it. So having known both lack and also knowing what comfort is, I share with you today that I hate inequality perfectly. I have relatives, acquaintances who have the same potential as I do, but life didn't give them the same opportunities, maybe because the economics was different. In the process, the potential is unrealized, so many destinies are wasted, and our country is actually the only one that is left poorer. So with this background, I've always had a vision to get involved in capacitating business to grow, because I believe that business is a key for economic prosperity, for social prosperity. Without the traditional qualification in development finance or in private equity investment, I wasn't quite sure how my marketing was going to get me there. I feared that I was too specialized, too focused, because this was all that I knew. So in 2011, I went to business school to equip myself and get more general knowledge. 6 months into that program, I resigned from my employer of 6 years at the time, with no other job prospect, only this conviction and this vague concept in my mind. I had finally realized the position that I could occupy in this big puzzle and the role that I could play. Today, I'm really blessed to be able to make a contribution through the work that I do, using my abilities to make a direct contribution to consumerism and consumer demand, and an indirect contribution to business growth and poverty alleviation, all by just doing what I love, really. Our country, as all are, is faced with some root problems which need to be addressed if we are going to move forward. We are well endowed, we have natural resources, we do have wildlife, we have the luxury of space, we have unique landscapes. But let's face it, not all of us are prospering. Only a handful are thriving, and a very concerning number are struggling to survive. We have in excess 600,000 Namibians who survive off just 12 Namibian dollars a day. 29% of our countrymen, they are living under the poverty line. And for a population of just 2 million people, this should really be unacceptable. The low skills and training are further contributing to the high levels of unemployment, particularly amongst the youth. And this further leads to frustrated livelihood. We find itself manifesting as crime, as abuse, as intolerance, and high death rates, spread of disease, particularly amongst the youth. The real issue is that growing economies thrive on productivity. But we need equitable skills, because if people are unskilled, they become unemployable. The further result of unemployment is limited consumer spending, because if people are not earning an income, they rely on the very few who are working. And that small disposable income is now spread so thinly across the base. We need to stop behaving as those who are only indirectly affected by poverty. And we need to begin to really walk a mile in the shoe of the people who live and endure this daily burden. Poverty is a collective burden. And it's one that we need to respond to and to try and find solutions urgently, lasting solutions that can raise the level of our entire country profile. There are many areas that require reform. No government can solve all of these problems on its own. So the onus is on you and I, the entrepreneurs, business. And each one can pick a struggle. There are so many, be it in the education, health, medical, industrial. There are plenty of areas that require reform and innovation. It is often said that great wealth cannot be secured from a day job. In fact, I add that a job is just above broke. So if we're going to add wealth, if we're going to create wealth, we need to do it through enterprise. Now, I'm not saying that we should all quit our jobs and become entrepreneurs overnight, no. But what I am saying is that there's an opportunity presented by all of these social challenges. An opportunity for us to solve these problems and to market the solutions to these problems as competitive, desirable, attractive brands. Usually, the bigger the problem, the greater the prosperity. So how can we solve some of these problems? Prolific preacher and teacher coined the acronym SAM. SAM stands for solve a problem, address an issue, meet a need. It's a very practical tool which I find we can apply in the marketplace. Let me illustrate SAM with an example. A few years ago, in the northern rural town of Ngwediva, the residents had no access to an upmarket venue for social events or recreation, and many were actually traveling to more developed urban centers to seek some entertainment facilities. One forward-thinking businessman asked himself the question, what is that thing that is causing most of the money to leave this microeconomy, and what can I do proactively to ensure that I bring that demanded for product or service to the doorstep of this market? He applied SAM. He solved a problem and he met a need. As a result, all those funds that were initially being directed outside of that microeconomy are now being channeled back into his establishment and creating great growth and much to the benefit of that microeconomy. Once you have applied SAM and you're creating value by offering solutions to your community, remember again that individuals are driven by two fundamental instincts. We have a capacity to love, and we have the liberty of choice, free will. So, as a businessman and the savvy marketer that I know that you are, you're going to leverage both. You're going to package this product solution or service under a competitive, compelling banner, which people are going to love and people are going to choose. Let's face it, we know that people love brands. You and I love brands. And ultimately, we buy the brand that we love. The rule of supply and demand in economics says that as long as there's a demand, there will be a supply. But it is in that order. There must be a demand before it can be supplied. And in the specific context of preference, preference is defined as consumer preference backed by buying power. Demand is defined as consumer preference that is backed by buying power. Now that word preference is a very high-risk word because it also introduces alternatives and it introduces comparison. Again, it becomes our sole responsibility to make sure that the brands that we are developing are preferable and lovable to the next best alternative. This means two things for you and I. As the producer, become more intentional, more deliberate in developing brands that are attractive, that are competitive, that people will buy into and love. As a consumer, develop a bias, a preference, a love for those homegrown brands so that we can give them a chance to grow. We are operating in a very dynamic and competitive marketplace. In fact, Namibia's case is even more unique. We are an international trading partner. We are receiving lots of import volumes from global contenders who are all fighting for a share of our small market. So the standard is very high, and we have to make sure that our local value proposition is competitive if it is going to beat and outcompete its formidable global contenders. With that said, you and I both buy into particular brands, and we do so for different reasons. There are also brands that we do not resonate with for different but valid reasons. So why is it then that we have the ability to love one brand more than the other? A brand belongs to both you, its consumer, and it belongs to you, its producer. In the mind of the consumer, the brand exists only as your perception. But to the producer of the brand, you create it, you shape it through your design and through your communication. A brand belongs to both of you, but there's still more to the brand. A brand is a relationship that is founded on the solid foundation of promise. Trust has to be earned in branding, and that trust can only be earned through consistency. And once you have acquired that trust, you can only retain it through consistency. The reason that we all buy into this brand more than this brand is only because we have chosen to trust the promise of this brand more than the promise of the other brand. This reveals to us that good brands are built over time. They have to be nurtured. Now, over the years, we have seen brands demonstrating their ability to influence consumer purchase decision-making, proving themselves to be catalysts of change, capable of contributing to macroeconomic growth. These brands have become best-loved brands. They have become employers of many. They have become GDP contributors, national assets, and nation builders. So the business case should not only be about maximizing your profit. We have to first and foremost be centered around meeting a relevant need, offering a superior value, and then packaging and marketing that value as a competitive brand. In closing, it is definitely a good time to be in Namibia, and it's a good time to be in Africa. Our continent boasts a growing consumer market. Today we have in excess 1 billion people. That is a consumer market twice the size of Europe. Just on our doorstep in sub-Saharan Africa, we have access to a consumer market of 500 million customers. So we should be ready and we should prepare ourselves to exploit these opportunities. But we can only do so by being competitive. So we need to develop and bring to the market authentic, homegrown brands, brands that will be able to make a substantial and a sustainable contribution to improving the lives of Namibians. Tata Madiba once said that poverty is not natural. Poverty is man-made. And poverty can be overcome and eradicated by the actions of human beings. He reminded us of our responsibility when he said that sometimes it falls upon a generation to be great. Finally, he recognized our potential within us when he affirmed us and he said that Namibia, you can be that great generation. It is time for us to move beyond being good and to move into our greatness. It is time for us to flip the script, for the last to become first, for us to rewrite our narrative so that we can also sing along to the song and say that we started from the bottom and now we're here. Thank you.